Okay.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, started. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning or good evening, wherever you are joining from. We would like to welcome you to the virtual segment of today, which is Discover LACME, the Latin America and the Caribbean Marketplace Explorer, delivered by ECLAC and ITC of the WISES Forum 2023, and thank all the audience for joining us today. In a few minutes, we will start the session. But before we begin, we would like to invite you to watch the highlight video from the WISES Forum 2023 that will be played by the WISES team while we wait for other participants to join us.
The week-long WISES Forum 2023 drew to a close with a determination to push ahead and reach the goal of meeting the UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals by 2030.
1/3 of humanity is offline. We must bridge the digital divide and ensure that everyone has access to the internet in this decade, in particular women and girls. At the same time, we must prevent and reduce the dangers of digital technologies. Stop the spread of mis and disinformation and hate speech, and the abuse of personal data, which is being used, often without our knowledge or consent, to boost profits and manipulate behavior, and promote a humane internet.
In thought-provoking high-level meetings throughout the summit, the ITU Secretary-General drove home the message that time is running out fast to meet those targets.
What we've learned over the last 20 years must serve to help us accelerate progress to achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals. The SDGs and the WISES action lines are inextricably linked, and we are in a race against time.
The 2023 WISES Forum brought together participants from 130 countries, including experts in the field, academics, and senior officials from 30 UN agencies and dozens of government ministers, underlining the stakeholders' commitment is there.
You saw the spirit out here. Everybody is ready for action. So WISES Forum is all about collaboration, partnerships, and basically ensuring that we are all working together, leaving the venue with a plan in action. So you can see from the happy faces that everybody is moving forward, going back home with a project in mind.
When we talk about the UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals, it's probably a good idea to remind ourselves what we're talking about. They include sustainable cities, end to hunger, clean water, and gender equality, and many more, of course, and all by 2030. While the physical meetings are coming to an end, the WISES Forum 2023 continues with virtual workshops in April and May. So do join the conversation again then.
Great. So for the smooth running of the session, we would like to give you some guidelines and housekeeping notes. Please note that during this session, your microphones are muted. And if you would like to intervene, please raise your hand. You can open your mic whenever we tell you to do so. What we want this is to be a very workshop style session, so feel free to raise your hand and participate. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Zoom platform, the raise hand function is located at the bottom of the participant window. So once you are given the floor, we will unmute your microphone. Once done intervening, please mute your microphone back again. We will take questions through the Q&A and also the chat in case you pose questions there. And you can access both the chat and the Q&A functions by clicking the relevant buttons in the bottom bar of the Zoom interface. The meeting is also recorded and it will be available on the event page of the WISES Forum 2023 website soon after the end of this virtual session. So now that we are done with the introductions, we want to welcome you again for joining this session, this interactive workshop, where we're going to guide you through what the Latin America and the Caribbean Marketplace Explorer is, but we are also going to show you live how to use it and how to make the most use of it. So first, let me introduce myself. I'm Cristina Collado Martí. I'm working as an e-commerce advisor at the International Trade Center, which is an agency of the United Nations and the World Trade Organization that is helping MSMEs export. And in our team, we do it through online channels. Here with me, we have Nano Müller, who is working at ECLAC. I will let Nano introduce himself as well. And ECLAC and ITC have been partnering to develop this tool, which we will explain during the training. Please, Nano, if you want to make some introductions.
Thank you, Christina. It is a great pleasure to be here in this session. My name is Nano Müller. I'm Chief of the International Trade Unit at UN ECLAC, the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean. And it has been a great pleasure working with ITC in preparing this free online dashboard on e-commerce in Latin America and the Caribbean.
Great, amazing. Thanks, Nano. So please, if you can start sharing the screen, Nano, and then we'll kick off with the workshop. And again, if you have any questions or comments, please write them in the chat or the Q&A. So as I was saying, today's session is going to be quite interactive. We are going to have a look at different topics. Nano, please go to the next slide. We're going to first give you an introduction about what the Latin America and the Caribbean Marketplace Explorer is, which we call LACME, as a way to make it a bit shorter and easier to pronounce. Then we are going to have a look at the results, which means we're going to explain the different characteristics of marketplaces, the analysis that we've done based on this tool. Then we'll do a live demo. We'll show you the dashboard and how to use it. If whether you are a policymaker, you're coming from a business support organization, or you are a business owner yourself, how to make the most of it. And then we'll also explain you what developments are upcoming, because we are also expanding to other regions of the world. Here, we will also put it in the chat, but here you can do a scan of the QR code to access the tool directly. If not, we will also put the link in the chat so that you can access directly after the meeting. So next slide, please. So, well, LACME, here just a brief introduction so that you clearly understand what we are talking about when we refer to LACME. LACME is the first digital tool that analyzes the online marketplaces of Latin America and the Caribbean in such a deep way. It's a huge database that we've been gathering in the last year and a half, and we are constantly updating. So in this session, what we want is to show you the trends in the use of the marketplaces in 33 countries in the region for which we gathered data from 2019. And then we also want to show you how to compare this data between countries in the region. So the tool is covering already visitor traffic and also key features of almost 900 marketplaces and 2,900 websites of these marketplaces. So again, we're doing an analysis of 900 marketplaces in 33 countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. Who created this tool? So let me give you a bit of a background. So a few years before we created LACME, ITC, together with the University of Applied Sciences of Amsterdam, decided to join forces to create the Marketplace Explorer for Africa. And that's a tool that we launched in 2020 at the very start of the COVID pandemic. Then we wanted to expand to other regions of the world, and ECLAC partnered with ITC to develop this second version of the Marketplace Explorer, which focused in Latin America and the Caribbean. Also, we also want to give acknowledgements to the Forum for Cooperation between East Asia and Latin America, FOCALAC, for helping us also in the development of the tool. So here, as you can see, and it's also very important at WISES to work in coalitions. We are a partnership of different UN organizations and also of a university in the Netherlands to be able to offer this free tool. And you might wonder why we wanted to create this tool and why we wanted to make this available to businesses and policymakers. Well, as you have heard 1,000 times, COVID impacted a lot every single country in the world, and also Latin America and the Caribbean. And there were many activities, and especially those that were led by micro, small, and medium-sized companies that were altered, and consumer habits were changed, and businesses had to adapt to this new trend. So e-commerce started to have a huge increase, and we were seeing that there was not enough information about marketplaces, which was one of the tools that that small businesses use the most. So we were wondering, as an organization, ITC, as an organization that's really focused on MSMEs, how could we support further micro, small, and medium-sized businesses in the area of e-commerce? So we decided to develop this tool to provide with more up-to-date information about the different landscapes of marketplaces in the world. So to, as I said, to overcome this lack of data and then help companies formulate also good strategies that promoted their digital presence, we launched the Marketplace Explorer. Nano will explain a bit more later at the end of the presentation, but we are also expanding this tool to Asia this year. So we will have the three tools ready: Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean, and then Asia again. Yes, Nana, can we move to the next slide, please? Can we move, Nano, to the next one? I don't know if you...
Sorry, it is stuck.
Oh yeah, no worries. Okay, no worries at all. Yes, so what we also have that's complement to the tool, it's a report that analyzes, as its name mentions, the landscape of B2C e-commerce marketplaces in Latin America and the Caribbean. And this analysis, it's obviously done with regards to the information that we gathered for the tool. So we encourage you to also go to this link and access the information here, because you'll be able to see a deeper analysis of the different marketplaces in the region, and also what are the most important determinants for the B2C marketplaces in the region as well. We will share the links again later in the chat. Next. See, yeah, perfect. So just to give you a bit more details, a few more details about how we, like what the platform shows, even though we're going to do a live demo in a sec, and also what kind of information you will find here. So for us and for our study and analysis, marketplace, what we mean by marketplace is a website that facilitates trade between multiple buyers and sellers. This means that the platforms that we are analyzing can be transactional, like Mercado Libre, Amazon, Free Market, or non-transactional and classified. These are the two types of platforms that we are analyzing. What we are excluding here is online stores of a single brand or company. Like, for example, if you go to a big brand like Nike.com, right? So again, transactional or non-transactional sites that facilitate this connection between buyers and sellers. That's what we consider a marketplace. What we are also analyzing is platforms that sell goods or platforms that sell goods and services. What it doesn't exclude is service platforms. That's for your information. We have B2C and C2C platforms, both of them. And what you'll be able to see here is the number of visitors at the URL level. That's why I was saying that we were analyzing 600 marketplaces, but almost 3,000 URLs of these marketplaces. Then we will also have a look at the types of products offered by these platforms, the geographical scope, so where they are selling, and also where the visitors they gain are coming from. And the origin of visitors, which is what I just mentioned. Next, please. And here, so when we were doing the research of the information, we gathered two types of information. Data that was freely available from, obviously, trustworthy sources, and also data that's privately owned. The construction process of LACME was carried out in 2 stages. So first, there was a mapping of the different platforms. We got the data from 2 main sources, CMI Global Marketplace Outlook, and also Insight to Impact. Those were our main sources of data. And then we also got traffic data and characteristics of marketplaces from SimilarWeb, and also from each of the platforms, information that was available in a manual analysis. This is for you to understand where the sources come from. And this is the introduction. I don't know if there is a question at this point that we can answer. I have a question in the Q&A. Would you please elaborate on legal frameworks on digital identity, trust service, and sensitive data protection in your region? How do you deal with cross-border big tech in this regard? Thanks, Mokaberry, for the question. Since it's not directly linked with what we just explained, we'll leave the question for the end, and we'll continue with the presentation. Thank you. Nano, you want to take over?
Thank you, Christina. So after this great introduction, I would like to show some highlights of LACME in terms of trends in visitor traffic in Latin America and different sub-regions. So just to start off with sort of the big picture, what happened to marketplace traffic throughout the pandemic. As Christina was already mentioning, we saw from the second quarter in 2020 a big jump in e-commerce throughout Latin America and the Caribbean, a trend very similar to other parts of the world. And we see afterwards that traffic has slowed down a little bit, but clearly, as you can see in the left-hand part of this slide, this big jump from Q2 in 2020 all the way up to the last quarter of 2020. And we see sort of a bottoming off of this trend in the next 2 years, in 2021 and 2022, the last quarter. But definitely we see that this big jump overall in e-commerce in Latin America. Now, when we go a little bit into the subparts of Latin America, and here in the second-hand part of the right-hand part of this slide, you can see what happened to e-commerce traffic with 2020 equal 100 an index, how this jump was spread in different parts of Latin America. And we see actually that in Mexico, the biggest jump took place from the start of the pandemic. Whereas in other parts, and in particular in the Caribbean countries, we see that actually traffic dropped in at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. And this has very much to do with the preparedness of the countries for e-commerce, and probably Mexico, but also to some extent the Andean countries and the Mercosur member states. They were better prepared than the Caribbean to really jump on the bandwagon of e-commerce, whereas in the Caribbean e-commerce is still quite underdeveloped. But we see, as you can see in this chart, also a take-up in this part of the region. Now, going a little bit into the country dynamics. First of all, where are most of the marketplaces based? And probably without a big surprise, as you can see here, that 5 large economies, Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, Colombia, Chile, and Peru, represent 45% of all URLs in Latin America and the Caribbean. And then we see sort of a long tail, and in particular, the countries in the Caribbean that represent a relatively low share of all the URLs, of all the marketplaces available in Latin America and the Caribbean. Of course, this picture is dynamic, and in the tool, you can find data for 2019, 2020, 21, and 22. And we see quite an important uptake of the number of marketplaces, in particular from the pandemic onwards. Now, what share of these marketplaces are transactional and which ones are not? And here in this pie chart, you can see that the large majority of marketplaces in Latin America and the Caribbean are still non-transactional. And 82% of all these marketplaces are mainly to post ads or to compare prices, or there are also some auction sites, but only a small share, 18%, are either semi-transactional or fully transactional. Now, of course, this is the number of marketplaces, and when we analyze this chart for traffic, you will see quite a different picture, because the fully transactional marketplaces, they attract proportionally a larger share of the visitor traffic compared to the non-transactional marketplaces. And we also see that these fully transactional marketplaces, they are concentrated in the largest economies, as we showed in the previous slide. Now, we also show in the tool which are the most important marketplaces at the regional level and also at the country level in Latin America and the Caribbean. And just at the regional level, it's probably also not a surprise that we know that Mercado Libre is by far the most popular marketplace for B2C e-commerce in Latin America. This is followed by Amazon. Amazon actually operates marketplaces within Mexico and Brazil. And it should also be noted that LACMI does not include yet marketplaces where Latin American consumers shop outside Latin America and the Caribbean. That is actually a development we will incorporate this year by not only considering marketplaces within Latin America and the Caribbean that are targeted to countries in the region, but we will add a dashboard later on this year that also show where Latin American and Caribbean consumers shop outside the region and what is the proportional share of the visits within the region and outside the region, all by Latin American consumers. But the tool as it stands right now only shows the marketplaces that are targeted towards the region. And here we can see, for example, OLX, that is an ad site that is also very important. And then we see Shopee that operates marketplaces in different countries of the region, Americanas, which is a Brazilian marketplace. And then we have some that also operate in different countries, like Falabella, which is a company from Brazil. And then the number of visits actually drops quite fast. So we see a quite variety of marketplaces operating in the region, but as is the case in other parts of the world, quite a big concentration in few marketplaces. Like here in Latin America, we have like 4 or 5 marketplaces that concentrate at least, I would say, half or 2/3 of the visitor traffic. Now, the tool also shows the third dashboard, which Christina will show in a live demo in a minute. It also shows what are the characteristics of the marketplaces, both at an aggregate level and also at the level of individual marketplaces. And one of the characteristics that are shown in the dashboard is whether businesses are allowed to sell in the platform from the country, or also there is an option for foreign sellers to post their goods for consumers to be bought within a particular market. And as you can see here in this pie chart, that 57% of all the marketplaces in Latin America and the Caribbean only allow domestic sellers. However, 43% of the marketplaces in the region also allows foreign sellers to post their products and to sell directly to consumers in a specific country. Now, this is of course specifically of interest to small and medium-sized enterprises and also large companies that want to engage in cross-border e-commerce. And actually in the platform, you can see whether a certain platform allows for this to happen. Then some data on cross-border traffic. Here you can see that the cross-border share in total visitor traffic to the marketplaces is quite low for most of the countries. So actually what this chart shows is that for big countries like Chile, Brazil, Argentina, Peru, Mexico, Ecuador, and the ones that are on the left, most of the visitors to the marketplaces are from the country itself. And it's only in the small economies, mostly in the Caribbean, that we also see an important share of the visitor traffic coming from countries outside the home market. And here the cases are like Guyana, Bahamas, St. Lucia, where we see actually quite a big share of the visitors coming from other countries in the world, and mostly from neighboring countries. So actually what this chart says that, and this is also shown by other studies, that e-commerce in Latin America is still mostly within national markets. So there's the cross-border traffic to marketplaces in Latin America is still quite small. And this is also confirmed by the business model of Mercado Libre, that actually replicates their platform within the national economies, within each country, but currently does not allow yet sellers from other Latin American countries to sell on the Mercado Libre platform in neighboring countries. This is something that is currently evolving. Mercado Libre already allows for foreign sellers, particularly from Asia and the United States, to sell directly on their platforms, but not yet from Latin American countries. And we hope that this will change soon, in particular when governments also make improvements in their trade facilitation to allow small packages to travel more easily from one country to the other, and also to make cross-border payments cheaper, and also the option to reverse a payment when a consumer is not happy with a certain product, and this can ship back easily and the customer can be reimbursed. But currently this is still quite expensive within Latin America and the Caribbean, and that's why we see that most of the e-commerce is still within the countries themselves. Okay, so here stops my short presentation on the some of the highlights of LACME. You can find more details in the study we showed at the beginning, and I will give the floor back to Christina, who will do a short live demo of the tool. And for that, I will stop sharing my screen.
Great, thanks, Nano. So yes, Nano was saying you can access a deeper analysis in the publication. We just put all the links in the chat in case you want to have a look already into that. So let me share the screen and we'll do a live demo. So this is a website of ECLAC where you will find the tool. Okay, I'll explain to you first how it looks like, and then we can go a bit into a few examples that I want to highlight. So the platform, the tool is made up of dashboards. Okay, dashboards with a different activity, with different tabs. There are 3 dashboards. You have one dashboard that refers to key indicators by country and region. We have a second dashboard which refers to trends in traffic analysis. And then a third dashboard that refers to figures per individual marketplace. Okay. Then in each of the dashboards, well, you'll find a cover page and an introduction that explains what you would find in this tool, how to use it, and how to understand the different terminology there. And then you'll get here to different tabs. So if you were, for instance, a company and a business owner that wants to know more about marketplace, you might be a bit scared about seeing all these huge database and like why. I mean, some data is very macroeconomic. So is it something that really matters to your business? Why would you need to make use of this? And I want to show you and try to convince you about why to use the tool if you're a business owner. So what I personally think it's more important as a business owner, and then later we'll see from the point of view of a policymaker, is the third dashboard on figures per individual marketplace. Here you will find information about, as its name says, about each of the marketplaces. So for example, we click on this first tab, and here you'll get information about each of the marketplaces. You can filter by category, but we'll, just for this exercise, we'll keep it to all marketplaces. Filter by type, and then select the marketplaces you want to explore. So I'm going to show the example of Apanio. Apanio is a marketplace in Chile, which was born during the pandemic, 2020, to provide Chileans with access to a marketplace that worked in the country and that also fostered the growth of micro and small medium-sized businesses. So the information that you can get from Apanio here is a traffic, total traffic to the web, the type of marketplace, if it's a specialized or not, what it's selling, if it's goods or goods and services. As I was saying before, one limitation is that this tool is not yet analyzing services per se, but marketplaces that sell goods and services, both. And then it gives you also information about if the platform is transactional, because remember, we are also including here classified, and also if there are any trading fees here. You also get a chance to see whether the tool is open to foreign sellers, and if you need to register to this. What I also like, and I especially like, and I think it's very important for business owners to know, is where the audience of a specific marketplace joins from. So here we can see an analysis of the web traffic. We see that most of the visitors of this marketplace are mobile users. So they will use their tablet or their smartphone to connect to the marketplace. And this can help the business owner to adapt their online presence and really optimize it for this kind of devices. Okay, because as you might be familiar with, it's not the same to create content for a website that's meant to be seen on desktops than on mobiles, and the size of the images, anything you do, like also the type of advertisements you do, it will differ. So it's good to see this analysis. Then we also get to see the traffic share by age group. Okay, this is again important to see what kind of audience is there behind each marketplace. So here we see that for Apanio in Chile, most of the audience is quite young. So the type of communication, the style, the products that are sold should be targeted towards that audience. Then by gender, see that there are more female buyers than male. And then what we see also is the source, where the web traffic is coming from. We see that some is coming from direct traffic, but other from organic. Organic here means you go to a search engine and you type, buying products from Chile, and then Apanio appears there because it's well positioned, it's optimized, and it appears easily on the website. So this is one of the examples that you can have to make the most as a business owner. Then what's also very interesting is to have a look at the trends in traffic. Okay, to see again whether the traffic to that marketplace is increasing. Let's go again, let's use again the example of Apanio. So here, well, we see that Apanio, the traffic is quite recent, the start of the traffic, because as I told you, it was born during the pandemic. And we've seen here an increase in the web traffic. So this is the information that you can get. What's the trend, right? What's going on with each of the marketplaces, and see if it's worth for you investing in one marketplace or not. And well, you have here other different tabs like marketplace by size. Here again, you can filter and you can see the size of marketplaces in the region. Obviously, Mercado Libre is a leader there, followed by Amazon, but there are other little marketplaces where you might be able to find a better engagement from the clients, because they might be more niche as well. So yeah, these are some examples of how you can explore, how you can make the best use of this tool as a business owner. But what if you are a policymaker? Well, the usage of the tool can be slightly different. What I would recommend you, if you're a policy maker or you're coming from a business support organization and you want to do a more macro analysis, is to explore especially dashboards 1 and 2. In dashboard 1, what we can see is the marketplace activity. And this is very interesting to see per country, right? To have an overview of where we can see the highest types of traffic, and Nano already mentioned that before. And then over time, so there's also an analysis of this activity over the given period of time, which again, it always counts from 2019, which is when we got the initial data. Again, here, yeah. So again, here you can also explore the landscape per country. So for example, continuing with the example of Chile, here in 2022. So here we can see the number of marketplaces. We can also see the web traffic, okay, divided also by specialized and generic marketplaces. We can see here the leading marketplaces in Chile and the total web visits per online marketplace. And then in dashboard 2, what I would recommend you to have a look at is a marketplace traffic trend, because this tab in this dashboard will allow you to compare different countries. So the trend in traffic in marketplaces in different countries. So here you can select up to 5 different countries and compare them. In this example, we have Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, and Mexico. And you can see how the movement looks like. You can see, for example, that currently, well, in Mexico, there has been a slightly higher activity on marketplaces compared to, for example, the one in Argentina. And we can see also the trend, why here in 2020, there was one of the highest peaks, well, except for this moment for Mexico, but it's obviously due to the pandemic in this case. And another good thing that we didn't mention, which is nice as well, is that you can also download the data and keep it for yourself for your own analysis. So this is how the tool looks like. We, just because my screen is now sharing, I wanted to show you the link to the publication. You also have the link in the chat. Please feel free to go through it. And we also have the same dashboards for Africa. In case you also want to explore that, the link was shared also in the chat with a very similar type of analysis per country, comparing different countries and checking into the traffic trends and other characteristics. So hope you like this live demo, very short, but if you have any questions, happy to answer. And I really encourage you to go later into the tool and explore all the different tabs it has. Nano, again, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Christina. I would like to mention a few of the future developments we have under LACME. And actually, I already mentioned some of them with regards to a dashboard that we will add, taking the consumer perspective. So what Christina has showed to you so far is the perspective of the marketplaces. So what are the marketplaces and who are the visitors to those marketplaces? But in a few months, we will add another dashboard that will take the consumer perspective. So where are shopping the visitors from a specific country? So going back again to the example of Chile, what you will see in that dashboard is where probably what is not a surprise that most of the visits of Chilean consumers will be on website within Chile. But what you will also be able to see in that dashboard is how many Chileans are visiting marketplaces in neighboring countries. And as we also mentioned, is that the e-commerce within the region is still quite low, but this dashboard will also show where of how much Chileans are visiting marketplaces outside the region. And we know that many Latin American and Caribbean consumers are buying, for example, on Amazon.com, on AliExpress, on Shein, and other marketplaces. So you will be able to take the consumer perspective and see how relevant a certain marketplace is, both within and outside the region with regard to consumers from different countries. Another dashboard that we will add that is currently under development is a dashboard that combines visitor traffic with other variables that we see at ITC and ECLAC as key determinants of both levels and trends in visitor traffic. So, for example, I don't know if you took notice, but when Christina showed the chart with the evolution of visitor traffic, we saw that in the case of Argentina, there's quite a downward trend. And we know that in the case of Argentina, for example, that the economy has, after its recovery in 2021, after the pandemic, has really slowed down. And the context for consumers is quite challenging, and we see that this downward trend in GDP and also in consumption is also reflected into the number of visits to marketplaces in the country. So you'll be able to combine data of visitor traffic with other indicators like GDP, like internet access, and many other indicators that we think are important with regards to both levels and trends in e-commerce. Now, another element that we will add, because as Christina was saying, this is quite a big database, and it may be challenging to really extract the relevant trends. We will add what is called country profiles, and also profiles for sub-regions and for Latin America as a whole, where you were able to see sort of the key indicators of LACME with regard to, for example, Chile, Argentina, Barbados, El Salvador, or any other of the 33 countries that are present in the tool. And finally, a development that is also underway, but we think it will not be available this year, but next year, is that we will be adding marketplaces that are key for services. So already some marketplaces that sell services online are present in the tool, but only to the extent that they also sell goods. But there are many marketplaces in services, for example, selling meals or taxi rides or other kinds of services. For example, if you're looking for jobs, there are also many marketplaces in Latin America, and these are currently not present in the tool, but we will be adding those hopefully next year. And another development that Christina already mentioned is that ITC is collaborating also with the Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, ESCAP, and a tool will be launched on the Asian region by the end of this year or early next year. So with that, the ITC will complete the spectrum of developing regions in the world and having tools available for all three of them. Okay, back to you, Christina.
Yeah, thank you, Nano. Well, this is what the next steps are of the Marketplace Explorer development. And we wanted, before closing the session, to see whether you had any questions. I think in the chat we'll see Olga given her thumbs up. Perfect. Well, I hope you managed to join the different links, to download the publication, go through it. You can always contact us, Nano and myself, if you want to learn a bit more, if you want to explore further any of the topics, or even if you would like to join forces to develop these tools. If all okay.
Christina?
Yes.
There was one question by Mokab Deri. And
Yes.
the question was, it's not really related to the presentation today, but the question is, would you please elaborate on legal frameworks on digital identity, trust service, and sensitive data protection in your region? And how do you deal with cross-border big tech in this regard? Well, this is not actually the topic of the presentation today, but maybe I could refer you to an important effort that is underway, that is led by the European University Institute. And in this effort, the both OECD, the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, together with the Economic Commission for Africa and also ESCAP, are collaborating to analyze the legal frameworks for specifically these issues you have mentioned. So I will put in the tool, in the chat, the link to this to a database where you can find lots of information on the topic you were mentioning. So I think that was the only questions I have seen so far in the chat.
Perfect, Nano. Thanks for answering the question. To close this, I wanted to give you a big thank for joining today. Before we officially close the session, we would like to invite you to explore the agenda and program of the WISES Forum 2023 on the dedicated webpage, and also consider actively participating. By actively, as an example, you can now go and click on the Marketplace's website and explore the Marketplace Explorer yourself. So in the closing, we invite the WISES team to play the WISES Forum 2023 partners video. Thank you very much.